Welcome to the Billable Mom podcast, led by attorney Cari Rincker, where we discuss working motherhood, but especially geared to professional mothers who are trying to juggle their time. Our time is precious, both at work and at home. We talk time management and productivity hacks, the struggles of being a working parent, and provide a community where other billable moms are also trying to calm the chaos 6 minutes at a time. Listen to stories of other working moms, but especially lawyer moms, navigate the waters balancing career and the ever-present demands of motherhood.
Hi, I'm Cari Rincker, and I am the Billable Mom. Truth be told, I have been anticipating this day for quite some time. I actually got the idea from this podcast while I was at home with my baby sleeping in my right arm while I was running my life and law practice with my left hand using my phone. I feel like I have so much of my own story that I want to share, but most importantly, I want to share the stories of women all over the country that are doing this thing, both at the office and at home. The funny thing is that Cari Rincker pre-kids used to think that I was superwoman, that I could do it all. But being a mother has easily been the hardest, but also the best years of my life. And I want to talk about that, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Some of these conversations are going to be raw and beautiful. I promise that all the episodes of the Billable Mom aren't going to just be me talking to you. I am so excited for the lineup so far for the first season. There's a lot of strong professional women that will share their stories with you. A lot of them will be lawyers, at least for the first season, but there are many other kinds of professional women learning that delicate dance between home and work. And I'm excited to have them here on the podcast. But today, I want to take time to talk to you about who I am and why I wanted to start this podcast. For those of that don't know me, I'm Cari Rincker. In a way of background, I'm a total farm girl. I mean, I grew up on a cattle farm, baling hay, the whole 9 yards. And I grew up in a very small town in central Illinois that I presently call home. In fact, I'm recording right now from my office right by the courthouse in my hometown. Life has a funny way of coming full circle, especially when children are involved. I came back to my roots and my family to help raise my children. That was my decision, but women from all over the country that are professionals are trying to navigate those difficult questions on how they are going to build their supportive community. For decades, I've lived all over the country, including College Station, Texas, Bozeman, Montana, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and New York City. I even lived in Rome, Italy for a summer while working for the Food and Agriculture Organization. I tell you this because it might help you understand me and my experiences and what led me to my path of single motherhood. For decades, I was focused on advanced education, building my resume, and traveling the globe, and later building my own law practice. I have poured my heart and my soul into my career. And one day I woke up and I was 35. I just had yet another breakup from my on again, off again relationship at the time. And I made a decision to freeze my eggs with a fertility doctor in New York City. And it is from that decision that has now brought me my two beautiful children. About a year later, after going through that treatment there, I moved from New York City back to central Illinois with visions of starting my own family one day. But I did not have my happily ever after that I dreamed about when I was a little girl. Being a single mom was not my plan A. And around the age of 39 or so, something snapped inside of me, and I decided to get pregnant all on my own. I made medical appointments and I had conversations with the medical providers. It all felt very real and very natural. And I have never once turned back or felt any ounce of shame from those decisions. Along the way, I've had my own fertility troubles, which is difficult, sort of navigating those emotions as a woman and even the depression that came along with it while managing my own law practice. I eventually had my children with IVF using my 35-year-old eggs with sperm donors. And I was quoted in an article in Elle magazine online, and I'm going to try to post a link to that article in the show notes. Anyone listening to this who wants to be a billable mom, who's exploring IVF or other types of fertility treatments, I want this to be a safe place to have those conversations. I've created a Facebook group called the Billable Mom, and I want women to feel like that is a place for them to connect with other professional women wherever they are on their motherhood journey. I became pregnant with my son in the summer of 2020 during COVID, while Times Square in New York City was a ghost town, and I had him that following spring. My son is the love of my life, but the transition to motherhood, for me at least, has been anything but easy. I started having medical problems in the middle of a farm divorce trial, true story, and it felt like a Herculean effort for me just to get the final day of trial pushed for after I had my son. I was in and out of the hospital at that point in time with pregnancy-induced hypertension, or basically high blood pressure, and I had an uncooperative opposing counsel with a visiting judge that wasn't there at the courthouse every single day. With my first pregnancy, I also didn't allow the time that I needed for maternity leave, and I naively scheduled a trial 2 months after I had my son, just to then have an opposing counsel come barge into my office with a baseball bat, figuratively speaking, when I was barely sleeping with an infant. I've had similar struggles with my second pregnancy with unsympathetic judges who made me feel like my pregnancy was an annoyance for their trial calendar. I've had a pump in courthouses and mothers' rooms and pray that me asking the judge for a 25-minute break wasn't going to be a annoyance to them. And I'm 0 for 2 so far. I'm planning to give myself the time, the space I needed postpartum while practicing law and running a business. I know that these are tough issues and not everybody feels the same about them. And I also know that litigators like myself are not the only ones who have had these kinds of challenges. I want to talk about it. And I want to talk about how we can help one another better navigate it. Being a business owner too has been really difficult for me during this time. I have employees. I have payroll to meet twice a month. I have landlords and bills that need to be paid. And I went through the great resignation, like a lot of small businesses. And I had an attorney quit on me 6 weeks postpartum after I had my son. Motherhood has highlighted to me how my law practice has been built on my hard work, my hours. And so when I stopped having the hours physically to give to my law practice, the firm has struggled financially. We all only have 24 hours in a day. And how do we get it done? One of our guests who you will hear took care of her kids during the day. She was an attorney. And she actually practiced law after she put her kids to sleep until about 2 o'clock in the morning. That is not me. I am dead after I put my kids to sleep around 8 or 9 p.m. at night. I used to be religious about the miracle morning at 4 a.m. I meditated, I journaled, I visualized my day, I exercised, and if I was lucky, I had some time to write books or check my email or to work on something that was a higher level that needed more concentration. But when you are up with kids in the middle of the night, it makes it difficult to steal those precious hours before the daylight too. I feel so silly looking back at the Cari pre-kids. I remember one day I was at a therapy session, And I was actually pregnant with my son, and I was complaining about how I just need more time. I cannot seem to get it all done. And I could just see it in my therapist's face. She was basically saying to me, girl, you think that you don't have time now. You're not going to have time. Once you have kids, you have no idea what's in store for you. I want to talk about time management, not only at the office, but at home. With the office, let's talk about email management. I feel like email has become the bane of my existence. So if you have the hacks, both at home or at the office, I want to talk to you. This has without a doubt been the hardest season for me as a business owner. I've oftentimes wondered, should I shrink? Should I grow? Should I just throw my hands up in the air and go get a remote job where I can work at home with my standing desk and Pinterest-like treadmill like the cool kids, or become a full-time general counsel where I get to leave my job at 5 p.m. along with the stress, right? Or do I just need to be hyper focused on productivity and efficiency in my own law practice that has been built literally on my blood, sweat, and tears? These are my questions that I've had, and I know that some of you that are also Billable Mom have had these same questions. I just read 2 books that I love right now, and they're sitting over there right near my desk. One is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, and the second is Come Up for Air by Nick Sonnenberg. They've both made me really think about the value of my time and how to make my time in my business and at home the most efficient. In the words of Nick Sonnenberg, I need to, quote, fix the sink in my business instead of keep mopping up the water that is spilling. And that's the season I'm in right now in my law practice. I might even start a Billable Mom book club. So if this interests you at all, then please connect with me on the Facebook group so we can talk about the books that are interesting to us, both in our business life, but also with home organization. For those of you that are business owners like me, perhaps you are having some of these same tough conversations. What is the future of my business? Then now that I have young children, do I have what it takes to navigate these waters? Let's talk about it. And let's also talk about those efficiency hacks. Childcare is a topic that I cannot wait to delve into on this podcast. The Cari pre-kids would have told you that I never understood why women would quit their jobs when they had kids. But the Cari post-kid completely understands why women make these tough decisions to do so. I have a lawyer friend who is essentially paying her entire paycheck to childcare providers because it is worth it to her, because she wants to have her career throughout these motherhood years, but then also on the other side. I recall that I got a phone call from my nanny who there was COVID exposure, and I had to be in court in 40 minutes. And just like that, I lost childcare for about a month as we navigated COVID. When I experimented putting my son into daycare, he was sick for literally 3 weeks in a row. I've had to reschedule court dates and appointments while caring for my son who had pneumonia at the time. Where I'm living now, the closest daycare provider is about 30 minutes away. And one of our speakers specifically is going to talk about the plight of childcare in rural areas. I'm incredibly blessed right now, blessed to have my cousin and another fantastic woman who are both taking care of my children. But this is how I have decided to navigate these challenging waters. I'm excited to talk about these tough issues with other Billable moms. Additionally, I am a lawyer and I am so type A. I love to play the game of organization with my kids. My organization skills and my inherent perfectionism may help me in the workplace, but I have to tell you that I have never felt such a lack of control in my home life. And I understand that I have a toddler and I have a baby and I work at it, but I cannot get on top of it. I make lists for inventories for diaper bags, and my label maker is my best friend. I've created life binders with lists, and I'm constantly feeling off balance. I know that I'm going through a season with small children, but I want to talk to other professional women who have navigated these same feelings. And how are you doing it or not? Let's talk about that too. Just yesterday, somebody said to me, Cari, I don't know how you do it all. You write books, you're an attorney, you have your own podcast. You know, how are you doing it? You've got kids. But the truth is that I'm not. And I told her that, and I'm going to tell you that as well. And not only do I have fantastic people that work for me in my law practice, but I also have an amazing crew at my home helping me there too. And I think so often women are portraying, especially online and in social media, that we are somehow doing it all. And it is not helpful to any of us to portray that. So I want to take down the curtain, and I want for women to have real conversations and to be honest with one another. The truth of the matter is that we all only have 24 hours in the day, and that I have to be judicious with how I spend my minutes. And at times I'm not making the best decisions. For example, I I really have been struggling with making time for my own health. I'm constantly in this the decision: do I check my email? Do I go to the gym, or do I go to my son's tumbling class? I mean, these are the decisions I have to make, with just a 60-minute interval of time. And more often than not, my kids win that battle for the detriment of my inbox. And just this morning, as I was taking my son to school, he was so disappointed that I wasn't picking him up. And I tried to explain to him that I had to record this very podcast here. So, mom guilt and the decisions that we make with our time is a very real issue. And I want to talk about that too. For me personally, I have been working with a lot of block scheduling. I think I finally figured out Calendly and how to block out some focus time in the mornings and calls in the afternoon. My mind is blown. So those are the types of things I will also want to talk about here on the podcast. Just last month, a physical therapist told me, after delivering very bad news about my arthritis in my knee, that, Cari, as a business owner, maybe you don't have to be at the office at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. Instead, maybe you can go to the gym and go for a swim. And I don't know why I hadn't thought about it before, because, after all, I became a business owner because I wanted freedom in my life. And it's high time that I take control of it and not feel guilty about that. So as I sit here and I record the podcast, I am accomplished professionally, and I can say that without hesitation. But becoming a mother, oh, it has shook me to the core. It is without question the hardest thing that I have ever done. And I'm bar licensed in more states than fits in one hand. Whoever said that the days are young and the years go fast was spot on, because I feel it each and every day. I remember struggling with sleep with my son insofar that I sought help with a professional sleep coach. I tell you what, this woman rescued me at a time when I was desperate and months away from having my second child and still getting up with my son about 3 to 4 times a night. With this podcast, I cannot wait to talk to coaches and professionals out there like the one that I hired that can be so helpful to working mothers. I've even taken a parenting class with this woman, and I think a lot of people don't even know that these resources exist. And I'm excited for billable moms out there to share those resources with one another. To be perfectly candid, there are days with being a working mother that I don't feel like myself. And then there are days that I feel like motherhood has now made me feel my truest self. This loss of identity and struggles with it is sometimes something that a lot of new mothers experience. I actually just spoke to a mother this morning who was having those same feelings. And truthfully, I am navigating this new world as a working professional mom every single day. I took my first momcation last fall to Miami. I spent, for the very first time, 3 nights away by myself. It wasn't even for a work conference. I read books by the poolside. I listened to podcasts. I laid in the hammam in the steam room. I ordered my Prosecco. It was awesome. And for a little bit, I felt like myself again. But then I also felt like I was missing an appendage, right? Where's my right arm? I love my children with everything that I have, but I also love myself. And I think so many women lose themselves at least a little bit in motherhood. I love watching Paris Hilton. I admit that I'm a TikTok observer. And last week on TikTok, she had this little snippet where she was quoted saying that her mom era is her favorite era so far. And I feel exactly the same. But so much of our lives revolve around taking care of others that it's easy for us to lose ourselves. In close on this podcast, I'm not going to pretend to have any of the answers. Instead, I'm just going to ask all the questions. And I hope that you will join the conversation with other Billable moms as we discuss how to calm the chaos 6 minutes at a time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Billable Mom. At The Billable Mom, we don't pretend to have the answers, but instead have all the questions. Please find us on social media and join the conversation at The Billable Mom on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, Pinterest, and YouTube. We also have a Facebook group where like-minded Billable moms find solidarity and provide a resource to one another. You can learn more about the Billable Mom and our picks for juggling work and motherhood at www.thebillablemom.com. You can also connect with Cari Rincker directly on social media at Cari Rincker. Until next time, let's calm the chaos 6 minutes at a time.